That's what it would look like. If it wasn't this, it would not look any better than this. One of my most important papers came out of this.
And this is how many pages, you would say? 10?
How much of it do you want? Those first 2 pages were particularly significant. Here it looks like I'm stuck for a while.
Did you number them now?
No. Okay. Here I was trying to brush up on things I had forgotten or hadn't learned properly.
When you see the back, do you remember the specific day or
Day? No.
No.
Well, this I know exactly. This was in September of '95. And I started worrying about a puzzle here, which led a couple months later to one of my most important papers with a guy named Joe Polchinski from California. Mm-hmm. I could give you that paper. And this goes on and on for a while. You see, I think that these things were still written before the problem was solved. And it's interspersed with things on other matters. I don't know whether anywhere in this mess... Oh, okay. By here, the problem's been solved. And you see, we didn't find any hint of a eureka moment in between, did we?
Here the problem is solved?
Yeah. At this page no. At this stage in the notebook, the problem has already been solved. I'm going to take this page out, because it's relatively lucid. Although you can have the whole message, you want it. You see, so here the problem has been asked, and by here, the answer is known, and these computations are just concerned with details. I don't think we're going to find anywhere in here a trace of the day it was solved. We'll just find notes that were made when I didn't understand it, and notes that were made after I understood it. But when I understood this particular problem, when I understood what was really the key to this particular problem, I don't think I was at this notebook. And the answer was so simple, it didn't really have to be written down. So
the answer is not there.
I don't think we're going to find the answer in this notebook. Yeah. We're going to find, up to a certain point, just musings about the question. The question's being asked in these pages. And then this part is a mixture of nonsense and other matters, and things that didn't prove to be helpful, and some musings about this question. And then at a certain point in life, the answer was clear, and the subsequent notes, this is mixed up with several other things. The subsequent notes, like this, have to do with details of the solution. So we just don't find anywhere in here that I was sitting at this paper when the solution hit my mind and then I wrote it down. If you want that, I think
it's not there.
Not for this particular problem, no. And probably it will be very hard to find anything that is.
Yeah.
This is more typical. Even if we found one like that, it would be a little bit misleading. This is typical. So here I can give you the before and after, so to speak, if you want that.
Yeah.
Well, knowledge about the universe is one of the most satisfying things that we can achieve as humans. We have our limitations that we can't avoid, but within our limitations we do the best we can to understand the universe. And I think it's one of the most satisfying forms of endeavor. We don't know how far we can get, or how close we can come toward finding what might be a final theory and understanding it. But trying to get as close as we can to that certainly enriches our lives while we're here.
We naderen de werkkamer van de man die vorderingen maakt met de reuzenopdracht van de vorige eeuw en die van de nu volgende. Het verenigen van de speciale relativiteitstheorie van Albert Einstein en de kwantummechanica van Niels Bohr. De man ook die probeert om twee schijnbaar onverenigbare dingen toch te verenigen. De planeten en sterren waar we 's nachts naar kijken. Deze meneer met zijn bladerenblazer. Heel de macrokosmos die we kunnen zien gedraagt zich niet zelden volgens andere wetten dan de microkosmos. De wereld van de atomen, de quarks, de protonen, de supersnaren. De wereld die we niet kunnen zien. Witten probeert die tegenstrijdigheden te verzoenen, om tot één theorie te komen, zo niet één formule, die de twee werelden verenigt. Een mysterieuze, maar schitterende theorie. Die van de superstrings. Een theorie waarin tijd en ruimte, zoals wij die kennen, geen rol meer spelen. Terwijl hij toch de basis vormt voor de tijd en de ruimte waarin wij denken te leven.
So you asked me about the future. Well, I think it's clear that we've got to eventually get a systematic understanding of this new kind of fuzziness that's involved in string theory. There's the quantum fuzziness and then there's the stringy fuzziness. And it will undoubtedly involve new concepts about space and time that will completely change our understanding of what nature is at its fundamentals.
Are you sure?
That I'm pretty sure, yes. I don't have any... I can't prove a theorem like mathematicians prove theorems, but I'm not in any doubt about that point, I've got to say.
Witten is Joods, net als Einstein. Maar hij heeft een totaal andere stem en een totaal andere manier van praten. Witten lijkt pure geest. Zijn stem is getekend door jaren van zware astma. Het is alsof je op bezoek gaat bij Einstein, die hier, achter die bomen, rechts in de verte, ooit woonde. Alsof Einstein je zo direct de speciale relativiteitstheorie zou proberen uit te leggen. De vergelijkingen waarover Witten praat. Het wiskundig en natuurkundig idee achter zijn verhalen. Ze zijn maar voor enkelingen op deze planeet te begrijpen. Het is de bijna absolute geheimtaal van onze dagen.
Well, the field really changed in a staggering way in the last 2 or 3 years. And it isn't yet clear whether we're in a period of consolidation where there's nothing we can do for a few years except tidy up loose ends and work out details and applications of the new perspectives, consolidate it, and eventually have clues about what the next breakthrough should be. Or are we still in a stage where we could synthesize something completely new if we just put our mind to it? So there's a big tension over that in my mind.
Aan de ontmoeting met Witten is een uitgebreide briefwisseling voorafgegaan. In eerste aanleg begreep hij niet wat er bedoeld werd met schoonheid en troost. Het is zo poëtisch geformuleerd. Stuur me alsjeblieft een wat meer concrete brief. Als dat gebeurd is, schrijft hij: Oké, laten we het over de superstringtheorie hebben en waarom ik de ideeën erachter zo opwindend vind. Je kunt me ook vragen naar mijn persoonlijke leven, maar ik weet niet of de antwoorden erg bevredigend zullen zijn.
I will not recite anecdotes like you read sometimes in autobiographies of famous physicists who write that in their youth,
stories and anecdotes,
in their youth they had certain fascinations like Einstein's with the compass needle. I can't recount any as very nearly as interesting as those.
Edward Witten is iemand waarvan ik niets weet. Ook al heb ik al jarenlang intensief met hem samengewerkt, zei Freeman Dyson me. Ik heb geen idee wat voor mens hij eigenlijk is. Wat hij doet naast zijn werk als natuurkundige. Een vreemde. Je kunt vergeten dat hij ook maar één persoonlijke vraag zal beantwoorden, zegt de persvoorlichter van het instituut.
Well, I think almost anybody for consolation would think of family first.
Yeah? Not superstring? No final theories?
Oh, I thought you asked about my life. Rather, my life as a whole, not my professional life. Yes, I think having a happy family life is more important than string theory. I don't want to disappoint you about the idealism of a scientist.
You disappoint me.
I do?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Here's another one. Freeman Dyson, happy family life. No, Ed Witten, happy family life.
Okay. String theory is still important.
Het is even voor 12 uur 's middags, als we elkaar voor het eerst ontmoeten. Witten vraagt of ik mee ga eten, terwijl de cameraploeg de set gereed maakt in zijn kamer. Dank je, maar ik wil pas praten als de camera loopt. Hij begrijpt het niet, maar accepteert het voorkomend. Hij geeft me zijn laatste wetenschappelijke artikelen en 1 artikel over de problemen in Israël. Ik kan ze lezen terwijl hij eet. Buiten is het doodstil. Om 1 uur komt hij weer binnen. Het zal tot 6 uur 's avonds duren, tot de camera wordt stopgezet. 5 uur zal het duren, tot we, na zijn ideeën over het universum, op de stilte van Witten zullen stuiten.
I give you a choice. You can find the origin of the universe.
Yes.
Or having the rest of your life a happy family life without.
Well, clearly I have to pick the second, because in the long run I'm dead, and it doesn't matter that much who discovers the theory.
For me, it's a little bit of a surprise. I thought of you as somebody being, in the friendly way of saying, being obsessed by a superstring and developing the theories and...
Well, it wouldn't help to be too obsessed, actually. I don't think, at least it wouldn't help me. There's only so much you can do. I've often found in my career that if new ideas were developing too fast, I just missed things. So I just have a feeling that there's a limited rate of progress I can make, no matter how hard I work.
Yeah, go out with the kids, play football with them, and in between you'll discover.
Well, hopefully. Well, anyway, whether it's so or not, I can't guarantee how much it does or doesn't slow me down. But I certainly do spend a lot of time with the kids, especially the 7-year-old now, who's very demanding.
What's his name?
Raphael.
You have 2 other?
I have 2 daughters, 13 and 17, sorry.
Yeah.
13 and 17, Ilana and Daniela.
If you say family life is the source of beauty and consolation, what is the beauty?
I
What
actually
is the
said consolation. I think that,
beauty.
well, happiness. You see, to me it's kind of pounding a round peg into a square hole to assess everything, just according to beauty. So we could say that happiness might be related to beauty, but it has its own merits in any case.
Mm-hmm. How would you define happiness exactly?
Now we have to leave it as an undefined term, like one of those terms at the beginning of the math books. So there are terms about which we have an intuitive feeling, but we don't define them. In a math book, so eventually you prove theorems and you define new terms, and you relate everything to basic terms that you have at the beginning that you don't define. So there are concepts like consciousness and happiness about which we have an intuitive feeling, which I believe we share.
Or beauty, or consolation.
Yes. Well, beauty and consolation I'm willing to discuss a little bit more. Okay. But we can't exactly define them. We can say from what we derive happiness, but I don't think we can define happiness.
We can describe it. Moments, anecdotes of happiness,
Yes,
of happiness itself.
Well, we can say, you know, when we've been happy or what we see as some of the sources of happiness. But we can't explain what we mean by happiness. But generally speaking, we don't have to because other people know, luckily.
So evident.
Yeah. Now, other things, like for instance, the quantum mechanical uncertainty principle. Other people don't know them, but at least we can explain them. That's the way it is, you see. The things we can't explain, luckily other people know.
You read the Bible as a kid? Or?
Yes, actually, to some extent in Hebrew, in Hebrew school.
Do you remember what kind of mental picture you had about Yahweh, the Creator, as a child?
Well, I think I've been a skeptic for as far as I can remember.
That is to say, no picture.
No.
There was no Creator.
Well,
or
I'm not going to express opinions, but as a general matter, I say that my attitudes were agnostic or skeptical for as long as I can remember.
the skepticism. What was it? What did you think about? For instance, the beginning of the universe, or infinity, the end of the universe.
I don't remember a lot of curiosity about the beginning of the universe
No?
growing up. And I think even now, if I thought that it was completely out of reach of scientific understanding, I wouldn't think about it very much. And in a way, on a day-to-day basis, I don't, because I think it's still out of reach. But I think that getting a better understanding of what the Big Bang was, although it's not at hand in terms of our science nowadays, is something we can imagine being at reach with some reasonable extrapolation of what we're doing into the future. I think that it's kind of clear that the Big Bang is where the physical theories that I'm interested in, quantum mechanics and general relativity, and their unification, is important. And to the extent we make progress with it, it's quite likely there will be a basic new insight about the Big Bang. And although I think that's still pretty far away, it's kind of close enough that you can have some fun thinking about it now and then.
What's the fun?
Oh, the fun is trying to imagine how a problem would be solved, even if you know you can't solve it yet. In the specific case of what the beginning of the universe was, at first sight, just at a naive level, it looks like it involves some contradictions. If the clock started at a certain time, what was there before they started? What was before the beginning, and how were the clocks started? It seems like these are issues that involve contradictions, but usually in science, if there's an apparent contradiction, it's because there's a hidden assumption being made in the way the question is asked. And when you probe more deeply, you eventually learn that if you correct the hidden assumption, there isn't a contradiction anymore. I certainly think that'll happen concerning these naive questions about the beginning. And to my way of thinking, the first really modern idea about how that would be, even though they didn't solve the problem, but the first modern idea about how the problem might be solved, of making sense of the beginning, was by Wheeler and DeWitt, who in the 60s recognized that the notion, what was there before the clock started, is tied to assuming that there's something called time in the universe. Time is a very good and useful concept under everyday conditions, but many things we take for granted in everyday life have turned out in physics only to be approximations. Wheeler and DeWitt pointed out that what should happen when quantum gravity is important is that the notion of time is only an approximate notion. There's a little bit of fuzziness in the concept of time. It doesn't bother us because the error in our watches, for instance, is much bigger than the fuzziness that comes from quantum gravity. But as you get back toward the Big Bang, this fuzziness in the notion of time would be important. So the concept of Wheeler and DeWitt was roughly that the more you get back to the Big Bang, the less you can make sense of the notion of time. And ultimately, therefore, a question such as what was there before the clock started won't make any sense. Because back at what we informally called the beginning, the concept of time didn't make sense. Like I say, I don't think this is the complete solution, but I do expect it'll turn out that they were on the right track.
Yeah, if I say, like Leon Lederman, before the beginning, the only things that were existing were the laws of nature, a kind of Platonic archetype of God.
Well, I won't accept the last statement about the Platonic archetype, but I also want to say specifically that the notion of the beginning then won't have a precise meaning, because the notion of the beginning refers to time. So there'll be a physical system that obeys laws which are subtle to describe, but time isn't one of the basic concepts. Time is an approximation that makes sense when the time is big and doesn't make sense when the time is small. I have trouble seeing exactly how to convey this thought to people who don't usually work in physics.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to draw a picture, though. The picture I would draw. So here I'm going to have time going up to the extent it makes sense. And then at a given time, this is the universe. That's space. And that's fine. But now, instead of having a cigar, let's say, here I've plotted space as a circle, and time goes up and down.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to just close it off like